So, on today's retrospective, I'm going to be talking about probably like the project that weirdly I've put the most effort into in my whole life, and it still like impacts and influences stuff that I do now. And that's a little something by the memorable, catchy title GHYCN. Gherkin. So this was a project that I worked on in like 2017, 2016 maybe. That I mean, you know what? Let's clickbait it. First thing I'll say about this project is that this is the first project I ever made that involved Marshwood. And I've made like 5 other projects since that involve Marshwood.
Oh, and I was in it.
Also, Jess was in it.
No, but I'm not in any of your projects now.
That's true. So this was my, I guess, final attempt at a generic standard ARG. What I wanted to do was I wanted to make an ARG that uses the regular methods of telling the story, but I wanted to tell a story that isn't just there is a spooky demon or a ghost and it's in my house or town and it's going to kill me, like fucking every single Slender Man web series and every single fucking web series that takes place in someone's house that's just them running around their house, and occasionally there's a spooky person in the background. So I made it more sort of sci-fi with that like supernatural horror element. The story basically was that fuck, now I've got to remember the story.
It was the Hippocrates Institute.
I think what it started off as
Yeah.
was that there was a guy
Who is you, by the way?
who was me, obviously.
Yeah.
It was just me.
And turned into GRYITH by the end.
No, this was like GHYCN ended like a year and a half before GRYITH even was an inkling.
But didn't end with that Yggdrasil.
No,
Was that the other one?
that was a different one. No, that was the other one. GHYCN was about
Definitely not
it was, now that I think about it, it's kind of the same plot as Beyond Two Souls, where he has like an entity following him around that can influence, that no one can see, but it can influence like objects and items and surroundings.
Yeah.
And it can like hurt people. Which is plot Beyond Two Souls. But eventually it's revealed, and this whole thing was M. Night Shyamalan levels of like twists. And I had
Yeah, of course it was.
it. Oh, you have no idea, right? I'm gonna get into it. Right, fucking this. So it starts off with that. He's got like it's just Beyond Two Souls plot. So the first twist would have been in episode 6. Only 3 of the original episodes that I planned were made, and then I went kind of off the rails. But in episode 6, it would have been revealed that GHYCN was actually a clone of a person. Tell me if this rings any bells. A person named Gemini Truman.
Oh my god.
Gemini Truman was originally a dude, not a non-binary person. Oh wow, Gemini was always non-binary. Fun fact. Did you know that? In the oddities. Yeah.
Am I Gemini?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, you predicted my.
I predicted your gender identity. Yeah. So Gemini Truman, the original version in GHYCN, was a man who had because obviously here's a spoiler for Marshwood, by the way, because it's going to turn out at some point that the Hippocrates Institute is an institute which finds basically fucking X-Men, people who have like abilities, and takes them all to their headquarters, which is in Mount Marshwood, right? That's what the Hippocrates Institute does in the Marshwood lore. And all of the creatures in Marshwood are actually just people with abilities who have escaped or that are just captured by Harpocrates, right?
Oh, and the walking trees. They're not people.
Well, the walking trees could be like someone with an ability who's making people think the trees are walking or some shit.
No, that's just
They're just walking trees.
Yeah,
the trees are trees are people too. Yeah.
trees.
People too. They have lives. So in GHYCN, they took this guy, Gemini, who didn't know they had abilities, but they'd like detected it with some fucking thing, and they took Gemini and they were trying to, like, take them into a van or something, but it triggered Gemini's ability. But Gemini's ability was so powerful that Gemini's body physically couldn't take it. So Gemini was split into two separate people with two separate abilities. And one of those people was GHYCN, but then Gemini was taken to... No.
Okay, good.
They don't have a name because they're just a clone.
Their name is Gem and the Marshwood one is N.I.
I can't believe you've done this. So that's the first twist, right? And that's pretty fucking wild.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
So then in episode 8, 2 episodes later, there was going to be revealed another person with abilities who I fucking forget the name of. I made a Twitter account and a Tumblr account for them.
Oh, the one with the picture of back.
Yeah. I can't remember who it was. And I took a picture of one of my friends and I just glitched out the picture and I was like, this is them. And she was like the hacker type character, like the voice in the air. Yeah. And I can tell you the whole story. If I go to the GHYCN, if I go to GHYCN, I'm not, but I can tell you how far. Yeah, I can tell you how far I got through the story that I planned and where it all went off the rails. Okay. Yeah, here we go. I made the first 3 episodes. The idea was that every third episode was going to be filmed in a different way. The first episode and the second episode were filmed as standard found footage ARG style things. And that's fine. And I think those are actually pretty good videos for an ARG, like to this day, considering it was like the first, like I made them by myself and they were like the first thing I'd made on this scale.
I think it was nice because we just played like the Black Watchman.
Yeah.
So we were so used to how to construct like cryptic messages and things like that in a way that users could understand.
Yeah.
Which was really nice. So a lot of it was through that.
Yeah. But do you remember what the USP of the third episode was going to be? As I said, every third episode of the series was going to be filmed in a unique way.
Was it the one where you're just like following?
No, it's not. The third episode was the one that was filmed as though and you can hear the dialogue, and it's filmed as though the people. Yes, it's filmed as though it is filming the people, but it's filmed after the fact. So the people aren't there, and you can see like the remains, like the like aftermath of what's happened, but it's filmed as though those people are still there having that conversation. It's done like reverse shot, but no one's in frame. And like to this, not to like suck my own dick, but I think that's an interesting idea. I don't think it's the sort of thing that would, like, you couldn't make a feature film with that, but as a short, like 3-minute video, I think that's an alright idea. She screams. I scramble to help, having fallen as she flew away. I found myself unable to remove her from the wall, and she splutters. What is it? How can I help you? I say, unable to mask the concern in my voice, not even trying.
Take care of my brother.
She says.
Don't make any more of us. That's the only way they'll find you.
Before I can respond, I hear her snap. She's being pulled into the wall. It's like there's some kind of vacuum on the other side.
Don't let them find you.
Snap, snap. It was like branches snapping underfoot in a rainy forest.
You can't let them take you back.
Then she was gone. Yeah. And you know what? Do I have my fucking Google Drive folders with like all my GHYCN stuff in it? My GHYCN stuff.
Wasn't GHYCN name like 8-bit cryptograph.
Yeah, almost all of the names for like everything in the GHYCN thing were like codes. Yeah, except Gemini Dreamer. So I've just found a folder in my Google Drive called GHYCN Universe that contains all of the original like stuff surrounding GHYCN, including Fides Radio. When Gemini,
my God,
when the original version of Gemini was taken to Marshwood, Gemini became a radio host, which I obviously kept in later iterations. And Fides Radio was going to be where Gemini was. Obviously now it's Marshwood Radio because the next project that I worked on with Marshwood in it was a project called Marshwood Springs 72, which takes place in 2072 and is canonically a sequel to GHYCN, right? GHYCN was a 20 episode, it was planned to be 20 episodes long. And GHYCN, let me see if I can find like the original plots.
Like MCU shit. Josh, what the fuck?
Yeah, GHYCN was like a huge project I was working on.
Yeah.
Fucking hell, I like just scrolled part way down this document called Treatment in the GHYCN folder, and it says Season 2, Chapter 4.
Oh my God.
Fucking hell. Okay. Fucking hell. Alright, I'll just read it out, like, word for word. Every third episode is a third-person surrealist short narrated by the protagonist. A guy with supernatural power. This was last edited on the 18th of February 2018. A guy with supernatural power to create people from nothing but sheer willpower is captured by a selective group who uses his abilities to create people that they can test other things they have captured on. The guy is the protagonist boy, spelled B-O-I. And in order for his creations to come to life, he has to make a close enough bond with them and has to be their friend in his head until they're real enough for him to be real. This was back when I was interested in tulpas.
Oh my
So
God,
this is like
yes.
this is like based on that kind of idea.
Yeah.
Naturally, then having them taken away and violently killed messed him up considerably. This is not even what I remembered. What I just described as the plot, that apparently I was completely misremembering.
No, I remember this.
Out of the leftover willpower from making these tulpas, I use the word tulpa there, are created 2 more of them, which are accidentally made. These have some pretty serious power. He refers to them as they, but their names are actually Brains and Brawn.
Oh my God, I remember that. Oh God.
Brains helps the guy forget once they're out, and Brawn actually gets them out. Oh, so the reason the guy can't remember once they're out is because Brains wiped his memory somehow? Okay.
Don't edit this out, please. This is Marco. Edit this out. I think this might be reflective somewhat of your mental state at the time.
I'm not editing this out because I'm actually going to talk about later.
Yeah.
Edit this out. I'm going to talk about later how this is definitely reflective of my what was going on in my life.
What was going on in your life? Jesus Christ.
Brains poses as his roommate or lover for a while, but they eventually snap and need to tell them. Brawn doesn't have a body. Brawn is more of a spirit that can affect the world around the guy from up to 10 feet away. Very specific. So that's what I was remembering before. As he finds out, he gets mad and accidentally erases Brains. That's what episode 3 is. The episode 3 they actually made. That's Brains getting erased.
Yeah.
After this, the people who want to use him try to track him down because they sense like the energy expel.
Yeah.
I guess.
I'm really sorry.
Can he hide is the last sentence of the intro.
Aren't we kind of breaking the canon of Marshwood if I'm voicing Brains?
No, because GHYCN isn't canon to Marshwood anymore.
Okay.
I've decided just now.
Yeah.
After the initial 3-part pilot, which did actually get fucking made, can I just say, to my credit, I actually made that 3-part pilot.
Yeah.
We are introduced to another character, 1760. He is a psychic who can read minds. He recruits protagonists to join him to catch all of the subjects' brains released on the day they escaped before the newly formed Hippocrates Institute can get a hold of them. I didn't remember any of this shit. They get into a heated hunt against the Institute, sometimes butting heads on the scene and almost getting captured. Some subjects even turn out to not be human, but animal. That's actually an interesting idea.
Okay, but you definitely got that from I'm not human. I'm not animal.
I probably wrote this pre-Spirit Phone.
No, this was
Spirit Phone came out in 2017. I first wrote this in 2016. Perhaps. You're almost definitely right, nevertheless.
I'm just saying, I think there might be an idea to cut this out of Griff Show and release it as a separate video.
Probably.
I think because we're going into so much depth here, this is going to be way too long for Griff Show. Or maybe just put part of it in Griff Show and say watch the rest on YouTube.
1760 is killed by a spider, a giant spider. How was I planning on doing that?
I don't know.
How was I
A lot
planning
of
on
this
filming
is
that?
like, I don't know how you would have done it. Because there's so many characters. We don't have any actors.
Yeah, I did actually have an actor who was going to be 1760. I can't say his name because doxing, but I'll say afterwards. Oh, I could just cut it out. It was he was going to do it.
Yeah.
So
Is that why we went to the cinema that one time?
probably.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so 1760 is killed by a spider, who then wants the main character, the spider has to be taken out first. End of chapter 2. Chapter 3, protagonist kills the spider and it's discovered that the reason Brains was able to wipe 162's memory so easily is because he barely had any memories to begin with. What the fuck? Is this another twist?
It is.
Is this a secondary treatment? What the fuck? On the 22nd of January 2017, Gemini Truman had been using his abilities to create tulpas, but the Hippocrates Institute found and captured him. For 2 days, he was in their charge. They took his blood and tested an experimental cure for the abilities that subjects of the Institute experienced. When this was injected into him, it caused Gemini's abilities to overload, creating a clone of Gemini, but leaving the original without any abilities. On the 3rd day, Gemini is dropped on the side of the road in another part of the country, and after making it home, he makes some crazy decisions. The experience he just went through left him shaken. Within a week, he dropped out of college and moved out of his parents' house, leaving all his possessions there, cut all contact. He went to live with his aunt, but soon leaves without a word. He stayed in the same town as his aunt, but worked for a local radio station, Weird Waves. Nice one. Little did Gemini or protagonist know that protagonist was always one step behind Gemini. His parents took in protagonist as Gemini, and protagonist moved into Gemini's aunt's house the day after Gemini left. She was none the wiser.
What does that mean?
So basically, the reason that Gemini's parents didn't go after Gemini when they left is because protagonist replaced Gemini, and because protagonist is a clone of Gemini just with no memories, no one noticed.
Except their family would probably be like, hey,
why do you have no memory? Yeah, it doesn't work out, does it? It doesn't work out.
Yeah.
He eventually quits his job and decides to take a long walk on a tall bridge. He just cancelled all future appointments with his therapist. He now has no ties to this world. Sitting on the bridge, he's about to let himself fall when someone taps his shoulder, a postman with mail for him. I've got a letter for you. An offer of a job at a news station in a faraway town. Free accommodation. It's perfect. This leads to the first spin-off. Gemini's story was going to be the first spin-off of Marshwood. It was going to be a blog where I posted radio shows made by Gemini that was going to be like mostly unrelated to GHYCN, but technically in the same universe.
Yeah.
Gemini moves to the seaside town of Marshwood Springs. This spin-off is where I first invented... In fact, this document is where I first invented Marshwood Springs.
Yeah, I think...
So, Proxy. That was the name of the female character.
Yeah,
Proxy. Chapter 4, which is the beginning of season 2. This was episode 10. Begins with 162 and Proxy meeting for the first time. Proxy was talking to protagonist like this whole time on Twitter, right? This is the first time they make an appearance. They make their way to the seaside town of Marshwood Springs. How the fuck was I gonna base something in a made-up town?
I don't know. Just go to a beach.
They believe that there is another escaped subject there. It was the most well-researched of 1760s notes. The person turns out to be DJ, spelt Deejay, a character similar to... It's a link to a webpage that doesn't exist anymore, so I don't know what it is. He helps them get information about the Institute from a contact within. It turns out to be a trap, though, and protagonist barely gets out. See, that's one that I had actually already filmed part of. There are a lot of these that I'd already actually filmed part of, and I'll put in the footage into the video.
Now I got a guy and his name's Dooley. He's my guy and I love him truly. He's not good looking.
Because I have a lot of the footage still. Protagonist finally knows the location of the place he was kept during chapter 1.5 and vows to make his way there. So chapter 1.5 is what you can see now after Lights Out, which was the official ending of part 1. The first 3 episodes were the pilot for GHYCN. Everything after Lights Out is like... It is stuff that I made because the actor dropped out for 1760, and a lot of it I couldn't fucking make because it was way too ambitious. And it's not good. Everything after Lights Out is just not good. Straight up.
Which ones is it?
Just these ones, if you look at my screen. Yeah, this is the 3rd episode, and everything after this... awful, because they weren't planned. These weren't part of the original story, and there's no story in them.
Oh yeah, it's just
They
when
just
you
don't
walk around your house.
Yeah, it's just me walking around fucking town and shit.
Yeah.
It's nothing.
Oh
my god, how much of this stuff? Oh my god. He gets to the Institute HQ with no real plan, but they already know he's there. They capture him, and he is used as a final piece they need to perform their ritual. At the last minute, during the ritual, Proxy takes protagonist away, causing the ritual to collapse. Here, there's a 4-day long live stream of static and trippy visuals.
Jesus Christ. I guess that kind of formulated into
some of the stuff that I ended up doing on my actual channel. Yeah. So that was a meme. That was a meme instead of an actual plot.
It's the same kind of
Yeah. Chapter 5. Protagonist learns when he wakes up that Proxy took him. That after Proxy took him, something happened. The universe went into a state of both not existing and replacing every version of itself simultaneously. That is a horribly written sentence. Also, there hasn't been a peep from inside the Institute since the ritual. They go back to Institute HQ and find it destroyed. After a while, someone comes out from the underground section and meets them. And the old administration was destroyed. Now the new administration has other worries. After the world fused with every other world and tried to return to normal, certain things from other worlds bled. Fuck. certain things from other worlds bled through, and the new institute wants to enlist the help of the people who are previously their subjects. Either that or be locked up. They'd have no choice. How long will they survive this grueling work? Question mark. Chapter 6. More and more things begin to start affecting the world, and the Institute is finding it hard to stem the tide. Meanwhile, Proxy and Protagonist find out the reason the subjects never existed in the first place is because of another ritual. Sorry, the reason the subjects ever existed in the first place was because of another ritual. This ritual also failed, but only because they did not have enough power. This only caused a few thousand anomalies in people and animals who would have existed anyway. This most recent one had enough energy to do whatever they wanted, especially using subjects with their increased extra-dimensional energy. But it became unstable when Proxy took Protagonist and caused the immense power to flow out, essentially destroying every version of existence, but then making ours anew, with some leftovers from the now destroyed other worlds. Proxy goes back in time, I don't know how, and finds the first ritual. She offers Protagonist a choice. She can go back and stop it from ever happening, but it would result in them never having powers, including her, so they would not be able to go back on that choice. End of Chapter 6. Chapter 7, The End. The anomalies start becoming bigger and more destructive. Some scientists think it's building up to a climax, after which there would be no more anomalies in about 30 years. Others think it'll just keep getting worse and worse forever. Protagonist decides to agree to Proxy's plan and everything goes black. There is an alternate version of a newly created universe with no rituals. There were no anomalies in the first place, no cracks that can grow. But now switch to Proxy's point of view because Protagonist no longer exists. Proxy finds Protagonist, now Gemini, but finds that he doesn't remember her. With no anomalies, Protagonist was never extracted from Gemini, so Protagonist never existed. Proxy reflects, wondering if she changed the world or just created a new timeline. In this timeline, Gemini never loses his job, and she winds up as his producer, never telling him that, what they went through together. She closes by saying that the world she left still exists out there, and wonders if there's an alternate version of herself still with Protagonist in that burning world. But at least she created a world where nothing ever went wrong and saved that. In her eyes, that is still good. During the series running, there will be a number of secret side projects to do with the town of Marshwood Springs. These are the spin-offs, which the Institute building overlooks. The main one of these is Gemini's story, told through his Tumblr blog. After the extraction of 162, he loses everything and at the last moments is asked to work in Marshwood Springs. He goes, having no other option, and finds that this is a strange town. Unbeknownst to him, he's the center of things, so we already know about that one. Other projects include Susie, which was going to be a short film I made. Actually, it was going to be a radio play, which was based in the woods of Marshwood Springs. And eventually that just became Marshwood Springs Oddity Society, and I'll probably use that as a story in Marshwood Odysseys at some point. 1 year after the end of the series, a single video will be posted to Protagonist's from Protagonist POV. It is heavily distorted. It turns out that as he had no part to take in the universe Proxy made, he just stayed in the new universe, but in the old universe. But the Institute has a plan. They have the technology to store 100 human minds in their most secure facilities. As long as nothing fully destroys the planet or burrows through the reinforced walls of the facility, they should be safe. This is Project Victory. After 50 years, they will emerge, their minds uploaded to new mechanical forms, and hopefully the first theory was correct, and this will all end after 30 years. Protagonist is offered a place in this system, his own filing cabinet-sized storage unit, and Protagonist accepts, because there is no other goal to strive for. And this was going to eventually lead into Marshwood Springs 72, which is going to be a sequel based 50 years after, and the twist at the end was going to be that the protagonist was actually the protagonist from GHYCN, and the protagonist was a robot the whole time. that was going to be the twist in the game, because it was a game.
I've missed the last.
That's okay. I'm just talking about the spin-offs now. Master of Spring 72 was going to be a game, and I made a demo for it. I think the demo is still up on my YouTube channel.
Demo for you made a game?
It was in Twine.
Yeah. Is that the one you made in uni?
Yes. So, what was I going to say? Oh, yes. So, 72 happened, but the idea of people's brains getting stored also actually led into another project that I made. Do you know what that could be? People's brains getting stored on things? Do you know what project that could have led into? GRYITH. The original GRYITH project. But the Industrial Revolution is definitely one of the most prominent examples when it comes to art and literature. In our modern age, machinery has encroached upon us even closer, upon our very beings. In today's fiction, we see machinery taking over our very bodies with cybernetic augmentations, and we even see into a post.
Hello, child. You may not know who I am, although you may remember why you are here. Yes, we saw what you tried to do.
They call themselves the Daira.
Did you think you could get away with this? We have decided that something must be done. We have enough to deal with without having to deal with the likes of you. And even while you're in there, we have connections that will be keeping a close eye on you.
If you go on my channel and watch the original GRYITH stuff and follow the narrative of it on I can't remember where, like my Tumblr or something, the plot is that I start protesting a company but nearby because they're taking all the power and the electricity, and it's very suspicious and they're clearly doing something shifty. But it turns out that that is a branch of Hippocrates, and that when my character breaks in to see what's going on, they get taken and used as a test subject to upload to this system that they have. It's fucking wild, these fucking ideas. And they're just like sitting here. Like, I have unused footage here in my Google Drive from like later episodes. But as I've said already, I only made 3 of the 20 episodes. And the episodes would have only gotten longer. This was like fucking huge. I worked on this for like 3 years. Like, I started this at my last year of secondary school. I started this at my last year of secondary school, and I cancelled. I like put this project to rest at the end of my first year of uni.
Yeah.
That is 4 years. This was like my main thing, my main project that I was working on. This is a fucking huge thing, like in my past, right? But at the end of the day, I think it's mostly like I started making it at a time that was really, really tough for me, and a lot of the reasons it was tough I'm not gonna say, but like I had problems with substance abuse. I was having huge family issues. It was like if you know me now, you wouldn't fucking be able to recognize me if you saw me in 2016.
I mean, it was, you just literally completely different.
Yeah, seriously.
But you're much, much healthier now.
Yeah.
In every possible way.
Yeah. And this was definitely based on that. And the in the narrative of GHYCN, in order to intensify the people's abilities, the Hippocrates Institute used a drug called cortexanol. And cortexanol, you may recognize the name, not because it's an actual drug, I made it up, but just the syllables of it is based on like several real drugs that I won't say the names of, that I had problems with when I was younger, as well as, you know, the other stuff. I was hanging out with some really shady people who were doing some really shady things, and I have some stories to tell, not on Twitch, but fucking.
One of the characters you were saying about was basically X.
Which one?
Like one of the friends were wrong or something.
You did what? Oh, with the memory wiping. Yeah. That was the inspiration for that. But at the time, but the thing is, at the time, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize, like,
it's just a subconscious way of letting it out.
yeah, like reading back on it, it's like, oh well, obviously that's like fucking inspired by that. But at the time, I was just kind of writing something that felt cool.
And the Tolkien
Well, yeah, the Topomancy stuff.
and the manifesting.
Yeah, well, that stuff was hugely based on like my experience with hallucinogenics.
Yeah.
And the reason I got so into tulpas was because of my time with hallucinogenics, and it was not a healthy mindset, because I was so convinced that so much of this shit was real.
Yeah.
And I was like fucking manifesting that stuff in my own psyche,
Yeah.
and it really, really was unhealthy.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, like, feel free to put up, but I mean, you know, you used to, like, hear voices and stuff, and it was just, like, a genuine side effect because that had been so embedded in you, like, with the associations and everything, like,
Yeah.
it was just, like, kind of free, just
Yeah.
thing.
But it wasn't just like drugs or stuff. It was like the people in my, like, as you said, like one of these characters is clearly my ex. And I think that the version of Hippocrates in here is largely based off like my parents. It's like a rich fucking. I mean, do you remember where Hippocrates was filmed? The bits of.
Wasn't it the farm?
No, it was filmed, which was where they spent every holiday at the time. Now they spend every holiday. I'm gonna bleep out these place names, but they spend every holiday to carry arms now. But back then they spent every.
You should probably also bleep.
Why? They're not gonna. No one. They never watch my things. They never watch anything I make. But yeah, I think that was basic. Because I mean, like if they do watch this, like then things are better now. Like basically everything in my life is much better than it was at that time. But at the time, there was so much shit going on, and like the family stuff is the stuff I don't want to go into too much. I'll talk about like my substance abuse stuff and like the toxic people I had in my friendship groups. I'll talk about that. I'm super open about that.
Yeah.
But the family stuff, like I still can't talk about. Like to the like
I mean,
that was really
huge.
tough.
Yeah.
Because it was like there were like multiple deaths in my family in the space of a year, as well as a very close friend of mine also dying, and that was in the space of like 6 months. All three of those deaths happened, and those two familial deaths had a huge impact on my family, and then people in my like direct family were also doing awful, horrible things. And it really fucking threw me for a loop.
And the horrible, awful things which we won't talk about, I mean, lasted until very recently. It wasn't just like
the repercussions of that stuff was like it still echoes.
Repercussions, it was just still happening.
Yeah, it's true. But like obviously I I was hugely affected by all of that, and the fact I was having so much other issues at the same time
Yeah.
as all the family stuff, and I was still in education.
Yeah.
Um,
And your family was very harsh on you getting grades and stuff.
It's
like
true,
that,
yeah.
While all the distress was going on in your life.
and I think the reason that, because if you remember, there was one summer where I literally, I think it was the first summer I met you.
Yeah.
I literally just did this. Like, I just worked on GHYCN for like 3 months
I
straight.
remember you just like didn't.
I just completely shut down. I think that was the first summer that I like tried to distance myself from that group of friends who
Yeah.
was doing all that toxic stuff with me.
Absolutely.
And I just, it wasn't even like me saying, oh, I'm going to go cold turkey. It just kind of happened.
Yeah.
I think subconsciously I reached like a breaking point, and I was like, and I just fucking shut down and was like, I've got to distract myself. I'm going to make something. And that's where I first created these first 3 episodes with you.
I think I probably had some influence on you going cold turkey because I was just absolutely like.
Yeah, you were adamant.
Yeah.
And you were a huge help during that time.
Yeah, because it was really, really bad.
Yeah.
But you're so much better.
Yeah. And yeah, I think at the time it didn't seem that way, but this was hugely influenced. I talked last time I did a retrospective about how the sleep paralysis that I had was probably due to the stuff I talk about this week, which obviously is my problems with drugs and stuff. And top of my hallucinogenics.
You used to get like really frightened.
Yeah, and if you remember, my sleep paralysis got so bad at one point that I just could not sleep.
Yeah.
I would get to the point where like my eyes got heavy and they started closing, and then I would like have a panic attack because of the idea of sleeping.
Yeah.
And I'd fucking like bolt awake, and I would be like fucking like every muscle would be clenched. Yeah, because it got to I had sleep paralysis so often that it got to a point where I was like physically afraid of sleeping.
Yeah.
And I think that only really stopped again after I started working on this, because my mind was like thinking about other things.
No, I don't know if it was.
Like, it wasn't just, I'm only saying that obviously it wasn't just this, but like, because we're talking about this, because this episode is about this, like, this was a huge influence. Like, this was a huge step. And like, if you remember, this was the thing that pushed me towards becoming a filmmaker. Do you remember what I did at A level?
Well, you wanted to do writing, like, for a long time.
Yeah, do you remember what A levels I did?
You did psychology and English lit.
I did psychology and philosophy and ethics.
Yeah.
And then
English lit.
yeah, and then after I finished my A levels, I thought I'd failed because I didn't realize an E at A level was a pass. I thought it was a fail.
Yeah.
Because I was told that anything below a C is a fail, because that's how it works. Yeah, I know. Well, that's how it works at GCSE.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize I wasn't that much. So I was like, well, I failed. And I think that was also a big kick to me. Like, I've got to really think about what I want to do. Like, is the state that I'm currently in what I want to do with the rest of my life?
Yeah.
And obviously at that time I knew you, and you were the only person who was like detached from that group of friends and my family. Obviously you knew my brother at the time, I think.
Yeah.
But like, he was still detached. Like, it was different. It was separate. And I think that was another thing that helped me sort of open my eyes a bit. Like, is the like what I'm doing right now, is this self-destructive like path that I'm on, how I want to stay. And over that summer I made this, and I was like, well, hey, this is fun. So I went to college and I did broadcast media, if you remember. And I met some really, really cool people. And after that, I was like, well, hey, I'll just do film. Because that broadcast media one was like radio and film and TV. And
it was just general
It was just media. Yeah. Well,
But,
it was
I mean,
broadcast
that's good,
media. Yeah.
Because at that time, like, you didn't know exactly what you wanted to do.
Mm.
And it just introduced you to a big range of stuff. Like, even if you didn't like it, at least you had the opportunity to try it.
Yeah, absolutely.
With, like, a friend.
And I'm really glad. Yeah, I'm really glad that I did like radio stuff, because I like to this day I would say that I still have a big passion for making radio plays, because radio plays are just like film but easier. Like it's a really, I love making radio. I mean, that's what Marshwood is at the end of the day.
Well,
Marshwood's a radio play basically, because they're really fun, because you can do whatever you want with them.
Yeah, there's some really unique things to be done as well.
Yeah, and you can do it on a really low budget, but you can have whatever you want.
Yeah.
It's really good. But yeah, I personally, the reason that I made the retrospective segment is because I wanted to talk about GHYCN.
Yeah.
Because I personally think that this was like a really formative experience for me.
For sure.
I worked in it for like 4 years, and I still like, technically I guess I'm still working on it, whilst none of this stuff is like, none of the GHYCN stuff is canon to Marshwood, but Marshwood comes from GHYCN.
Well, it's just like the next evolution, really.
Yeah, it's just sort of it's a simplification. GHYCN was too complicated.
It was so complicated. And a lot of the stuff was just not achievable now. I mean, maybe in a couple of years, but I think as well, like, with your head where it is now, I think you're probably I'm not trying to speak for you, but I think you're probably quite detached from a lot of the ideas in there now.
I am like reading it back. It's so incredibly like Star Trek sci-fi.
Yeah.
Like now I'm much more. I really over the past couple years, I've gained a huge respect for simplicity. And I think a lot of the things that I write now, like you've read a lot of the stuff. I still have a thing where I write like a scene out a week.
Yeah, just
on something.
casually,
Yeah, just like of an idea. And you've read a couple of those, but I don't like sharing things
No,
that I
that's
write.
fine. I mean, they're all
But
pretty like work in progress.
Yeah, but I always try and keep it simple, because like that's just what works best for me.
Yeah.
And I think GHYCN was just far too complicated, especially considered for what it was. Considering it was just nothing, basically.
I think more than anything, what it was just an escape for you, and was a vent piece, but you didn't realise that at the time.
I did
And
not
it was
realise that at
just
the time.
A way to formulate and put all your feelings into something and get them distance from you. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like in college, when I did my fucking animation about sexual assault, like, it's just a way to like release that from you.
Yeah.
And to just, at least you've turned it into something constructive. But now you've kind of got it out, and now you've tried it. I don't know. Now you're a lot better. I don't know if like it's something you feel as strongly with. I don't know.
I don't know either. I don't know either. See, there's a lot of stuff just in this folder that is like I forgot all this stuff was in here.
Yeah.
Like Marshwood Spring 72 still has all the files for the game. Agency, I don't even remember making that. That was an idea for like an entire like RPG.
Yeah.
And was my plan there, ARA, I don't know what ARA is. Is that, I think it might be just part of the radio show. And an emergency broadcast, which was going to be, I mean, take a look at this. Recognize that? What does that look like to you? That's a decision tree.
Oh yeah.
And it was going to be another game made in Twine. I'd rather focus on like my like more video related stuff.
I think you should make it.
I don't know. I like, as much as I like to have varied talents, I think right now I need to be focusing on like refining specific talents to sell myself on,
Well, yeah, but I think Twine is a really good, not as a game platform so much, but as an art.
Yeah, maybe.
But you do.
Yeah.
I'm obviously very biased.
But this was because what was it called? Girth.
Oh my god, Girth Bar.
Yeah, that was what we talked about last week. That's what I talked about last week. Last time I did retrospective.
Yeah.
that was the first thing we made together, or at least the first thing I made and was like, you stand there. But this was like, that was like, I think that was really important for this. I think if I hadn't made Girthabath first and seen how shit it was when I just don't put any effort, I wouldn't have made this. Because I still maintain that these first 3 episodes of GHYCN are good.
Well, I think those first 3 episodes...
For the time.
It's the same as with anything. It's your first kind of time where you can creatively explore the ideas you have. And so, of course, you're going to be the most passionate and the most attentive to what you're filming and what you're doing with them. And you find it out a lot. And then as it goes on, you lose a bit of that. Yeah,
it's because everything kind of seemed to kind of fall apart a bit. Like, I lost the actors. But I'm glad that, like, that falling apart didn't make me go, like, okay, well, I'll just fucking give up. Yeah.
It motivated you more.
It did motivate me more, which is why I kept making it.
Yeah.
But sadly, I just didn't have the resources there anymore. Oh, I think we've said everything, right? Yeah. And this is definitely going to be released as a separate video. I think I'll have an advert for the video. Do you want to know why this will be a separate video?
Because it's like an hour long.
It's 48 minutes long.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you enjoyed hearing basically this rant piece of an explainer.
You should edit it together the same way as you do a Marshwood episode.
I'm going to.
Yeah.
Except I'll edit it together how I do the Marshwood radio bits in a Marshwood.
I think you should get Pappy for it.
What, this podcast? Yeah. No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't make Pappy do an hour. We'll do something or other, yeah. So yeah, there's a little explainer on that, and next episode will be part of GRYITH show again, and it'll be much shorter. And next episode, I'm going to be looking at next episode of Retrospective. I'm going to be seeing Champions. I'm going to be looking into Champions. Yeah. So keep an eye out for that next episode.
I love Champions!
Well, you're going to have to wait for next episode.
Yes!
So we can talk about Champions.
Everyone watch the next episode because it's going to be absolutely fantastic. I'm so excited.
Okay, well, thank you for listening. If you've gotten this far, if you've gotten this far of me basically just fucking talking about how fucking great my shit is.
DM Josh that you've watched this video. I'll draw you.
Yeah, if you've watched this video this far without skipping, actually, I can forgive you for skipping. Jess will draw you a picture of a frog that looks like you.
I don't know if it's gonna look like. Okay.
Yes. I've decided. Okay. Yes.